This is the third video in our series, and it is titled Expansion and Reform, and it will cover the period from 1801 to 1861. So definitely the most dramatic thing about this time period in American history is how much the United States expanded and grew. So what we're going to try to do in this video is to show with maps how much the United States grew and give background on the events which made its expansion possible, especially focusing on the question of slavery. So in 1801, the United States possessed only lands west of the Mississippi, but this would soon change. So in 1803, President Thomas Jefferson purchased Louisiana Territory from France for $15 million. This had doubled the amount of land the United States had and allowed for the Western territories to be settled. Many new states were added at this time, such as Louisiana, Indiana, Mississippi, Illinois, and Alabama. In 1819, the United States signed the Adams-Onis Treaty with Spain. This treaty settled a western border dispute, along with the United States acquiring Florida. In 1820, the issue of slavery came about, with the possible admittance of Missouri as a state. States at this time tried to maintain an equal number of free and an equal number of slave states. By adding Missouri, this would unset the balance and give political dominance to the pro-slavery states. What came about was the Missouri Compromise. It was agreed that Missouri would enter as a slave state, but Massachusetts Northern counties would enter as Maine, a free state. Also, a line would be drawn at latitude 3630, and slavery above this line would be prohibited, except for the new lands added as Missouri. This period from then on was dominated by the policies of Andrew Jackson, and Jackson really didn't focus on many issues regarding expansion. In 1845, Texas was added to the United States, but this caused controversy because anti-slavery politicians feared this would expand the realm of slavery as well as create tensions with Mexico. So let's backtrack a decade. In October of 1835, settlers in the Mexican province of Texas declared themselves an independent republic from Mexico, and within 6 months, won their independence from Mexico. Many fear that because of these ties, war with Mexico was imminent. And it was. After a border clash with Mexican forces and a desire to expand, with President James Polk discussing the ideas of Manifest Destiny, the United States declared war on Mexico on April 25, 1846. The United States, though, would succeed, and in 1848 won the Mexican-American War. The result of the conflict was the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. This treaty called for the United States to pay Mexico $15 million and pay off the claims of American citizens against Mexico, which was around $3.25 million. America, though, received the border it wanted at the Rio Grande River, and it gave the U.S. ownership of California and a large area comprising of New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and parts of Wyoming and Colorado. During the Mexican War, the United States had also signed the Oregon Treaty with Great Britain. This settled the northern border boundary in the Oregon Country, where the U.S. agreed that the boundary would be at the 49th parallel, rather than 5440, where the United States wished it had been. So now, once again, the United States quickly gained new territories and had greatly expanded its size. But once again, with these new territories, the issue of slavery would come up. Right before the U.S. declaration of war, California had declared itself an independent republic. And now that the United States had control of California, California wished to be admitted as a state. California, though, would have been admitted as a free state and would once again upset the balance of free and slave states. Senator Henry Clay proposed the Compromise of 1850 to avoid war. This compromise essentially did 5 things. First, it admitted California as a free state. It banned the slave trade in the District of Columbia. It created a National Fugitive Slave Act. It allowed the Utah and New Mexican governments to be organized under the ideas of popular sovereignty, and it resolved the boundary dispute between Texas and New Mexico. In 1853, the Gadsden Purchase occurred. The United States bought from Mexico an area in southern Arizona and New Mexico for $10 million. America hoped to use this new land to build the Southern Transcontinental Railroad. In 1854, Congress passed the Kansas-Nebraska Act. The United States wanted to organize the territories of Kansas and Nebraska, and Senator Stephen Douglas of Illinois proposed using popular sovereignty, or rule of the people, to choose whether they would be free or slave territories. What ended up occurring was a bloody civil war between pro-slavery and anti-slavery residents and activists, which history has dubbed Bleeding Kansas. In 1857, the landmark Supreme Court case, Dred Scott v. Sandford, was decided. The majority, led by Chief Justice Roger Taney, declared that people of African descent could not be citizens, and, important for us, since they could not be citizens, this makes them property. This now means that the Fifth Amendment protects their owners' rights, and Congress could not prohibit slavery in the territories. This decision invalidated the Missouri Compromise and would change the way Congress would now have to look at slavery in the territories. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected as president. Lincoln ran on a platform of prohibiting the expansion of slavery, and this, along with many other issues of the time, caused 11 states to secede from the Union. They then formed their new government under the Confederate States of America, and the Civil War erupted.